Our announcements today include study at 10 o'clock starting January the 7th, band practice, which is 6:30 on Tuesday, Thursday 12 o'clock bridge, Friday 9 o'clock, and that would be for AA. So now we will have the lighting of our candles and our prelude. We'll begin our service this morning by singing Joy to the World, verse 1, found on page 246. To worship, please read with me. Let us gather in joyful celebration, for the light of the Christ is come into this world. Come, let us worship the newborn King, Jesus Christ, and may our hearts be opened to the miracle of Christmas. Praying together. Dear God, we need to be reminded that in a humble stable, the divine touched the earth, breathe the air we breathe, and walk the ground we walk. Born to sacrifice, born to bring us life, forgive our reluctance to proclaim this to the world. Forgive us our ingratitude when we disregard your word. Bring us to that place where shepherds heard the angels sing, and send us out to share that glorious song. Amen. Amen. Singing, O come, all ye faithful, verses 3 and 6, found on page 234 of your hymnal.
point, we will pass the plate. Lord, help us to live good and meaningful lives. Help us to use these gifts to make our community and our world a better place, and to buy a chicken or two with our heifer money. Amen. So we did hear from Emma, those of us that were here on Christmas Eve, about all the good things that were happening with heifer. Emma, anybody that wasn't here, do you remember how many things you got? You went through that litany so quick. You remember what you got?
Yes, you got our list right here.
Emma will give us a little announcement as to the heifer report. Go ahead.
We've got water buffalo, alpaca, goat, sheep, pig, garden seeds, tree seedlings, honeybees, a whole basket, which includes rabbits and chickens, a gift of water, share of a heifer, and some to go to school. We've collected $1,585.
So yeah, Emma was a great custodian, and they picked out what they were going to get, and that's what a buck at a time can do. Think of that. Awesome stuff. Any other announcements or prayer concerns that we need to address? All right, we're through the Christmas rush, and everybody got through that, and here we are in the postlude, getting ready to finish up 2024. And I guess I would just, there was one word that I wanted to reference in that opening prayer that we prayed together. Forgive us our ingratitude. Disregard your word. And I don't want to turn this into where we need to be grateful every single minute of every day, because we all have things that bother us. We all have things that are concerning. But there should be something every day that you're grateful for. And I'd ask that you just kind of think about that. Try to stay on the gratitude side of that line of ingratitude and gratitude. Be thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for. All right, then we would trigger the... Yep. So this is on 328 for those of you that don't know this one, but we've been singing long enough. I think most of us know this one by heart. Lord, thank you for listening to those concerns that we have thought about silently that have not been echoed in the four walls of our church. And thank you for being here to support those of us that are part of this congregation. Loving God, help us remember the birth of Jesus that we share in the song of the angels, the gladness of the shepherds, and the worship of the wise men. Close the door of hate and open the door of love all over the world. Let kindness come with every gift and sincere desires with every greeting. Deliver us from evil by blessing which Christ brings. Amen. At this point, please join me in the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen.
And at this point, we'll have our scripture readings. They come from the Old Testament, Psalm 46, 1 through 3, and 6, 11, and Isaiah 11, 6 through 9.
Psalms 46, 1 through 3, 6 through 10. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its turmoil. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has wrought desolation in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I am exalted among the nations, and I am exalted in the earth. The second reading comes from Isaiah. Leopards will lie down with young goats, and wolves will rest with lambs. Calves and lions will eat together and be cared for by little children. Cows and bears will share the same pasture. Their young will eat side by side. Lions and oxen will both eat straw. Little children will play near snakes' holes. They'll stick their hands into the dens of the poisonous snakes and never be hurt. Nothing harmful will take place on the Lord's holy mountain. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Today's next song hymn is going to be I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And I have a written description of this particular hymn. The words to this hymn were written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow back in 1863. 2 years earlier, his wife had been tragically killed in a house fire. That same year, the Civil War broke out, tearing the nation apart. In 1863, his 17-year-old son ran away from home and joined the Union Army. He was severely wounded, and Henry rushed to his side to nurse him back to health. This was in December, in the midst of great sadness and turmoil for Henry, for the rest of the nation. This carol can best be understood against the backdrop of the war. The poet feels like dropping his head in despair, but then he hears the Christmas bells. Their triumphant pealing reminds him that God is not dead, nor does he sleep. Please stand for the singing of I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, found on an insert.
player transitions into our speaker.
She doesn't transition as fast.
Now, what do you want, an arm on?
Transitions fast in the corner. Maybe Jack.
That's better? Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas week to you.
Merry Christmas to you too.
This morning I would like to revisit Silent Night, probably the most beloved carol of all times. I will do this from two perspectives. The first, from a little more than 200 years ago, and the other from a little more than 100 years ago. In 1818, a roving group of actors was performing in towns throughout the Austrian Alps. On December 23rd, they arrived in Obendorf, a village near Salzburg, where they were to reenact the story of Christ's birth in the small church of St. Nicholas. Unfortunately, the church organ wasn't working and would not be repaired before Christmas. Some stories say that mice were the problem, others say that rust was the culprit. But in any case, the church organ was out of commission. So the actors presented their play in a private home. The presentation of that nativity play touched the heart of the pastor, Joseph Moore, and put him in a meditative mood. Instead of walking straight back home that night, he took a longer route. That longer path took him up over a hill where he could look down on Obendorf, his peaceful, snow-covered village. He gazed in awe at the glowing Christmas card-like scene. His thoughts about the Christmas play he had just seen made him remember a poem he had written a couple of years before. Pastor Moore decided those words might make a good carol for his congregation the following evening at their Christmas Eve service. The problem was he didn't have any music to use at home could be sung. The next day, Moore went to see the church organist, Franz Gruber. Gruber only had a few hours to come up with a melody, which could be sung with the guitar. But by evening, he had managed to compose a musical setting for Moore's poem. On Christmas Eve, the little Obendorf congregation heard Gruber and Moore sing their new composition, Silent Night, to the accompaniment of Gruber's guitar. Of course, at that time, the words were in their original German, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, Alle Schlaf. The song could have been forgotten after its first performance, but a stroke of luck intervened. Just a few weeks after Christmas, a well-known organ builder arrived in Obendorf to fix the organ in the St. Nicholas Church. When he finished his repair, he stepped back to let Gruber test the instrument. When Gruber sat down, his fingers began playing the simple melody for Silent Night. The organ repairman was so impressed that he took copies of the music and the words back to his own Alpine village. He showed the composition to two family groups of singers, namely the Rainiers and the Strassers. They were so captivated by it that they put it into their own Christmas repertoires. The Strasser sisters spread the carol across Northern Europe. In 1834, they performed Silent Night for King Frederick of Prussia. And he then ordered his cathedral choir to sing it every Christmas Eve thereafter. 20 years after Silent Night was written, the second group of family singers, the Rainiers, brought the song to the United States, singing it in German at the Alexander Hamilton Museum in New York City's Trinity Church. In 1863, nearly 50 years after first being sung in German, Silent Night was translated into English. This carol has been referred to as the song that was heard around the world. It was translated into at least 140 languages. The words come from a simple priest. The music was composed by a musician who was not known outside his own village. There was no celebrity to sing at the world premiere. Yet its powerful message of heavenly peace has crossed all borders and language barriers, conquering the hearts of people everywhere. Silent Night was to be performed in a very different setting 100 years later, in 1914. World War I had broken out in Europe in June of that year. The United States is not part of that story, for they did not join the war for another 3 years. So this story occurred in the first year of the war. Nearly 1 million soldiers and civilians had already died in Europe by December, a mere 6 months after the war began. The armies of the Allied and the German powers were grimly deadlocked, facing each other over a series of trenches that stretched nearly 500 miles from the English Channel to Switzerland. On the Western Front that December, it rained almost every day. In some places, the water was 5 feet deep. Many of the trenches, especially those in the low-lying British sector to the west, were continuously flooded, exposing the troops to frostbite and trench foot. One account has the following description. It had been pouring and mud lay in the trenches. The guys were caked from head to foot, and I have never seen anything like their rifles. Not one would work, and the guys were just lying around the trenches getting stiff and cold. One fellow had got both feet jammed in the mud, and when he was told to get up by an officer, he had to get up on all fours, and then he got his hands stuck in too, and was caught like a fly on flypaper. All he could do was look around and say to his pals, "For God's sake, shoot me." End of quote. Yes, life in the trenches was abominable. Continuous sniping, machine gun fire, and artillery shelling took a deadly toll. As Christmas approached, 1 million mud-caked troops were shivering, frightened, and homesick. And then something amazing happened. There was a Christmas truce that bubbled up from the ranks, with both armies making small gestures of goodwill in the few days before Christmas, December 25th. Near Armentières, France, some Germans suggested a brief local ceasefire, even sweetening the deal with chocolate cake. Along the Lys River in Belgium, a battalion of Welsh infantrymen raised a banner reading, "Merry Christmas." As temperatures dropped below freezing on Christmas Eve, the guns in many sectors fell silent. Through the gloom, the British could see the flames of candles dotting the branches of hundreds of makeshift Christmas trees in the German trenches. That night, thousands heard something they would never forget. The haunting sound of Germans singing, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, Alles schlaft. Up and down the line, the British, moved by the holiday spirit, responded with carols of their own. Following each selection, the other side would cheer and applaud. Soon there were greetings of Happy Christmas, you no shoot, we no shoot, and come over here, echoed across no man's land. Slowly, the two armies crept out into the shell-blasted landscape. The following was written by a British soldier who experienced the Christmas truce. He said, on Christmas morning, we stuck up a board with Merry Christmas on it. The enemy had stuck up a similar one. Two of our men then threw their equipment off and jumped on the parapet with their hands above their heads. Two of the Germans done the same and commenced to walk up the riverbank, our two men going to meet them. They met and shook hands, and then we all got out of the trench. Buffalo Bill, the commanding officer, rushed into the trench and endeavored to prevent it, but he was too late. The whole of the company were out now, and so were the Germans. He had to accept the situation, so soon he and the other company officers climbed out too. We and the Germans met in the middle of no man's land. Their officers were also out now. Our officers exchanged greetings with them. One of the German officers said that he wished he had a camera to take a snapshot, but they were not allowed to carry cameras. Neither were our officers. We mucked in all day with them. They were Saxons and some of them could speak English. By the look of them, their trenches were in as bad a state as our own. One of their men, speaking English, mentioned that he had worked in England for some years and that he was fed up to the neck with this damned war and would be glad when it was all over. We told him that he wasn't the only one who was fed up with it. We did not allow them in our trench, and they did not allow us in theirs. End of quote. What both sides found was that the other side had ordinary men like themselves. Once they had broken the ice with greetings and handshakes, they started talking about their homes, their jobs, their families. Many realized that they bore each other no real that they were merely pawns in a vast struggle beyond their control. Gifts were exchanged. English corned beef and German cigars were particularly popular. One British captain said, where they couldn't talk the language, they were making themselves understood by signs. Here we were laughing and chatting to men whom only a few hours before we were trying to kill. The camaraderie for a short time spread. On Christmas Day, thousands of unarmed men from both sides emerged from the trenches. In some places, combatants even played soccer with makeshift balls. The truce was quite widespread. Where Germans were faced with Britons, more than 2/3 of the troops made temporary peace. The French and Belgians were less charitable, for the Germans had viciously invaded their homeland some months before. So some French officers defiantly ordered attacks on Christmas Day. We opened rapid fire on them, wrote one captain, which is the only sort of truce they deserved. Yet, in most places, the sound of gunfire was replaced by the sounds of Christmas. The commanders on both sides were not very happy about the truce. When word got back to them, they were appalled. On December 26th, British General Smith ordered that on no account is social interaction to be allowed between the opposing troops. On December 29th, the German High Command forbade all fraternization, warning that it would be punished as high treason. So with great reluctance, the troops said goodbye and ambled back to their trenches, dreading what was to come. Though many had fantasized that their gestures might lead to an armistice, they knew it was a futile dream. The informal ceasefire had stretched all across the 500-mile Western Front, where more than 1 million men were encamped. The truce was especially warm along a 30-mile line around the Belgian town of Ypres. And today there is a monument in that city honoring the Christmas truce of 1914. Not everybody, though, approved. One Austrian fighting near Ypres complained that in wartime such an understanding should not be allowed. His name was Adolf Hitler. It was also said that in certain areas, when the war resumed, that those facing each other at the front had to be sent to the rear because they couldn't bring themselves to kill each other. The Christmas peace also showed that when enemies really see each other, it is as brothers who don't understand why they are killing each other. Certainly, this is what Christmas is all about. God's peace in all of us. This is what happened in the hearts of men on both sides in the trenches of Christmas of 1914. This amazing showing of Christmas cheer was never again repeated, and as World War I progressed, the story of Christmas at the front became something of a legend. Oh, that that truce had been permanent. At the end of the war, there were 16 million dead and 20 million wounded. I would like to close with the words of a British song written about the Christmas truce of 1914 called Christmas in the Trenches by John McCutcheon. Because it was written as a song to be sung instead of as a poem to be read, the spoken rhythm is a little off at times. Christmas in the Trenches. My name is Frances Tolliver. I come from Liverpool. 2 years ago, the war was waiting for me after school. 'Twas Christmas in the trenches, where the frost so bitter hung. The frozen fields of France were still. No Christmas song was sung. Our families back in England were toasting us that day, their brave and glorious lads, so very far away. I was lying with my messmate on the cold and rocky ground when across the lines of battle came a most peculiar song. Says I, now listen up, me boys. Each soldier strained to hear as one young German voice sang out in words so very clear. He's singing bloody well, you know, my partner says to me. Soon, one by one, each German voice joined in harmony. The cannons rested silent. The gas clouds rolled no more, as Christmas brought us respite from the never-ending war. As soon as they were finished and a reverent pause was spent, God rest ye merry gentlemen struck up some lads from Kent. The next they sang was Steal a Knot. 'Tis silent night, says I. And in two tongues, one song filled up that everlasting sky. There's someone coming towards us, the frontline sentry cried. All sights were fixed on one lone figure, trudging from their side. His truce flag, like a Christmas star, shone on the plain so bright, as he bravely strode unarmed into the dark of night. Soon, one by one on either side walked into no man's land. With neither gun nor bayonet, we met there, hand to hand. And in a flare-like soccer game, we gave them bloody hell. We shared some secret brandy, and we wished each other well. We traded chocolate, cigarettes, and photographs from home. These sons and fathers far away from families of their own. Young Sanders played his squeeze box, and they had a violin. It was a curious and unlikely band of tired men. Soon daylight stole upon us, and France was France once more. With sad farewells, we each prepared to go back to war. But the question haunted every heart that lived that wondrous night. Whose family have I just put in my gun sights? 'Twas Christmas in the trenches where the frost so bitter hung. The frozen fields of France were warmed as songs of peace were sung. For the walls they'd kept between us to exact the work of war had been crumbled and was gone forevermore. My name is Frances Tolliver. In Liverpool I dwell. Each Christmas come since World War I, I've learned its lessons well. That the ones who call the shots won't be among the dead and lame, and on each end of the rifle, we're all the very same. Let us pray. Dear God, we are consumed with thoughts of peace for our war-torn world. May peace, everlasting peace, heavenly peace, reign supreme. And like the enemies in the trenches 100 years ago, we pray for the time that the wolf will indeed dwell with the lamb on your holy mountain. Amen. Amen.
Transition back to piano player. Well done. Very thoughtful. Okay, we're going to next have Silent Night, Holy Night, verses 1 and 4. It's on page 239 of your hymnal when our piano player is ready.
You might notice that the German version is in here too, but we aren't going to sing that.
Forgiving spirit of him to whom we dedicate this season prevail again on earth. Bless us with new resolve to live peacefully with our neighbor on God's holy mountain. Go into the world with peace and love. Amen. Amen. And our final song today will be verse 1 of Go Tell It on the Mountain. It's on page 251.